So to give a bit more of a picture of the contrast between then and now, I was speaking, of course, to Michael McHugh just a little while ago, who actually started at the bar the same year, or at least the New South Wales bar, the same year that you did. 1961 versus 2012, when we're now speaking, gives a little bit of a typical day in your life at that time, or at least in those early years.
Okay. I would usually get in about 8:30, and you would then be looking at your list to make sure that all the matters that you thought were in, and that everybody knew that they were in, and just checking that they were going to get to court on time, because on a couple of occasions, you could forget to come back and say to one of the counsel, "You've got a matter tomorrow," so then you're in terrible strife. And also, if you don't let the solicitors know, we have to let the solicitors know as well as the barristers. On one occasion, I didn't let the solicitors know, and I can remember the solicitor, I think it was Michael O'Day, and I just rang up, and I thought the best thing is to do is just to fess up. And I just said, "Look, I'm sorry, I got back, I was taking call after call, and I forgot to let you know that your matter's in tomorrow." And he said, "Paul, if that's the worst thing that happens to you in your life, you're pretty lucky. Not a problem. We'll be up there. The council's on top of it, yep. So there's no... I'd let the council know, but not the solicitor." So he said, "Well, he's got the case ready to go." He said, "Yeah, that's fine." So that's the only time it taught me a very, very good lesson. You've got to double-check about 3 times when you came back. So that would be the start of my day. And then it would be more of making sure your day involved being particularly ready at, say, 1:45 to be at the list right on 2. You couldn't go to lunch. I mean, if you want to go to lunch, you go to lunch between 12 and 1. But you couldn't go out anywhere to a restaurant. Not that I would. I hate it. So, and then at 4 o'clock, you had to make sure that you're at the Supreme Court list for the Supreme Court list, and at 2:30 at the undefended divorce list. So you were really, and then you had to get back to make sure in those days that you were available between 2 and 6 for just call after call after call. Some days it'd be hundreds of calls with matters, clerks that you got on very well with were unloading briefs on to the floor because, who you got available, mate? Who's in that list? For example, who's in... look, I've got Jim Poulos in before McGrath. He's got 4 matters. Well, I've got 2 in front of McGrath. Okay, he can take them. So that's what would happen. So it was just briefs going everywhere. So your day coming up to 6 o'clock was just chaotic.
Were you an adrenaline junkie by any chance?
Yes, I am. I do love... the harder it gets, the better I love it. I do like to be pumping, as I put it. I do find, my wife said, just sit down and relax. I'm going to cut the lawn, so I train all the time. So I get up in the morning, I ski, go for a paddle and do exercise and blah, blah, blah. And then, I read the paper and I better do something. So, yes, I am. But I that's how I love it.
So with these very busy days that you were describing in those early years, you in a sense, and I'm going to use a very cliched analogy, you must have taken to it like a duck to water, and like the proverbial duck, you soon learned the art of seeming serene on the surface, and underneath those little legs were going like crazy.
That is correct. And if you sound to solicitors like you're nervous and you can't handle it, and you get in situations where you have to ring up and get your counsel out of the day, the following day, because they've got a case, for example, on a Monday, which they were told was going to take half a day, didn't get on to about 11, so then they're part heard into the next day. So they've also got another 2 matters on that day. So you've got to ring up the solicitor and keep them happy, and that is to say, and you've got to be honest, very truthful, and they understand, the good solicitors would understand that that's how the law worked in those years, that, sometimes cases would run further than what they thought and also the council thought because of unforeseen circumstances. So you had to ring up and say, "I'm sorry, Mr. So-and-so or Miss So-and-so is not available tomorrow now because their case has gone over. We thought it was only going to take 2 hours. It's going to take 2 days. But your matter's in before Judge So-and-so, and I have available 3 names they just, oh, fantastic, thanks, Paul, and then they'd say, give it to so-and-so. I wouldn't just ring up and say, look, Mr. or Miss so-and-so is unavailable now, full stop. And they, well, what am I going to do? But when you give them an option that they can do it easily, and they just use 9 times out of 10, they would say, "Oh, thank you." So you're actually giving them a service. So they'll come back to you because you've actually given them, even though the council they pick can't do it, they'd be very pleased that you've given them a service. And it is a service industry.
Do you know, I have a brilliant alternate career that you could have followed. You could have been a fantastic events manager.
Yeah, that's it.
Because you have to exercise exactly the same contingency-minded approaches to all these situations, unforeseen and otherwise, and logistical.
Yeah, that's right. And it's funny. Now, wait a minute. There's a story about Freddie de Sachs. He told me that when in the war years or something, he was prevailed upon to organise a huge event because of his clerking skills. And I just forget the event, but he did it as like a piece of cake. So that is correct, yeah.